Yeah, absolutely. This map, I mean, there's been some teams that like to try different things for sure, but ultimately I think, especially once you get down to the nitty gritty and specific sub maps, you're going to see a lot more Reinhardt, and I think all three of the sub maps you could see Reinhardt. I think it's probably the most dominant composition. I think when you're looking at this region as well, there's certainly some flexibility at the tank position that has dictated some deviance from what would be considered the global meta. You look back to at the American Tornado days and stuff, and that has been the case. But here and now, certainly want to know what everybody else is thinking. Chat predictions in the chat here. 1 for Hive, 2 for Trick Room. Let us know what you think is going to be kind of going down in this matchup. But again, overall,
I mean,
absolutely.
If there ever was one, just the volatility in these rosters and the volatility of what we've already gotten coming out of the gates here, you really just never know. I'm excited to see this Astronex versus Infected matchup, though. Look at me, man. Reinhardt player through and through. When I get to see the one-on-one, someone's got to win it.
4, 3,
Yeah, I mean, that is the inevitability, isn't it?
We've seen this pick a few times, too. The Bastion's coming out.
Yeah, this kind of goes back and forth. You see Bastions, a lot of pressure, obviously. Some teams preferring the Cassidy, a little bit of flank potential. Not going to have it here, though. Look at that burst pressure. Bumblebee down.
Yeah, they're just gone. This is as good as dead, too. I can't speed out. That was a massacre, Yurix.
Just about as quick as they entered the fight, it was just over, and now you can see Pummy celebrating a little bit. Rightfully so, but nonetheless, early cap here. And looks like Trick Room going to be opting to hold off on that high ground as Astronex and the rest of his squad Hive is getting into position, but they're going to have to be careful because a lot of pressure, even more so now that they've lost the neutral. That's what they have to accept now into this fight as they approach.
A lot of damage in the face of Astronex and crew, but same goes for Infected. Both of them eating Bastion damage, but being able to hold the position just that much better. Honestly, let's be real. Either of those teams could have exploded at any point in time. That was on a knife's edge. Somehow all 5 members of Hive stayed alive.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be going in and trying to figure out exactly how that happened. But nonetheless,
someone else can analyze that. I will not.
That's the thing with this composition is that's going to keep occurring, I think, and it's really going to come down to the ability for each team to synergize together and make sure that they're using their cooldowns properly. You don't want to use things too early, but you definitely don't want to have someone die without using it, especially things like Immortality Field. Got to watch out for those.
Oh God, it's even worse. Oh, here it's even worse. Oh dear God, that's so much damage. Dude, I've got put through the meat grinder.
I remember too, Hive.
This is a relaxing game for them.
Yeah, they did. They took out Pirates of Pajamas, and here they are getting absolutely bulldozered by Trick Room. But should be mentioned, Trick Room did 3-0 Timeless, a team that has been tested through time and has been proven to be very strong. So obviously this Trick Room team, that's why I'm so excited about them. So, oh my God.
Bro, he's blocking all the damage upwards. Trick Room have all the ultimates. Hive are just coming up on theirs, but it's 88%. This is their final fight. They don't have an opportunity. He got frozen out of his ultimate. The artillery form. Oh, just completely unavailable. Trick Room didn't lose a single player here.
This is a 100.
There's not one elim for Hive.
Dude, this is what's crazy. When you look at the stat sheet here, it's 0 limbs, 0 final blows, 4 deaths across the board.
Pummy has as much damage as the entirety of the opposing team combined.
True. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. That's not much to analyze beyond that, right? I mean, Hive obviously has been taking a lot of pressure as soon as they step up and just basically dying in rotation. As soon as walls go up, it's like bodies are dropping. I mean, Hive obviously has a little bit of something to figure out, but we're going to leave that up and chalk it to momentum from losing the neutral engagement and hope that Hive can turn things back around here because nothing's really changing. It's the same comp, so here we go, round 2, I guess.
Actually, kind of curious. We don't usually see the Bastion go all the way to this map. At least not as far as what we've seen in EMEA. Wrapping around though, it looks just as deadly. Hive managed to avoid it. They're going to be up that cooldown for some time, but Trick Room looks to play the same game of Ring Around the Rosy here, just avoiding one another's Bastions. And now it's going to be basically the same thing. Point's going to unlock, but Trick Room have to avoid, or rather Hive have to avoid Trick Room's Bastion. Oh, they don't. They go in. They walk into said Bastion. Astronex's, got a one-way ticket on the pain train, I'll tell you what.
Definitely a difficulty of getting into space. And I think one thing that we're seeing, especially in this matchup, when you look at, okay, what are the differences between what we're seeing here and what we've seen from other teams that have used this, whether it be an NA or an EMEA, is the fact that the walls, we're not seeing a lot of lethality behind the walls outside of Trick Room's usage of it. Hive is opting to trade the wall, and then it's kind of nullifying each other, and there isn't much pressure being exerted because of the placement or timing of those walls.
Well, trying to use it aggressively, our Hive. Time finds himself locked in the artillery of Pummy, who goes down. Amplification Matrix makes things very dangerous, though both teams have thrown it out. Trick Room seems that much trickier to deal with, though. Forces Hive to take an alternate position around them. They're going to use that Bastion to try and rip down the walls of Boat. Does manage to do so, but they have enough to finish it off. A Blizzard thrown in as well. This is a huge investment from Trick Room, but the sound barrier gives them another shot. Nevertheless, artillery forced out. Every ultimate has been used by Hive. It kind of feels like it shouldn't have taken this much. It feels like they won the fight a while ago. They got 2 first picks. But it took all 5 ultimates to really get it done. Trick Room continued to invest though, so I mean, economically, it doesn't actually result in that much damage.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, they wind up capturing over 30% more than they realistically should have. So Hive now have to somehow rely on an Earth Shatter, maybe even a window to come up pretty soon here from Abyss to be able to win this fight. Otherwise, Trick Room, we've seen what they can do in the neutral fights. They've been very successful in them. Obviously, this isn't inherently a neutral, especially if Astro can find some value with this.
Shatter available, Astronex waiting, looking. Has the Immortality field to actually make the Shatter easier to hit. Oh, and Infected's got him. Pinned against the wall. Oh, God, salt the wound. That's an MTD if I've ever seen one, ladies and gentlemen. Infected now pulls back, trying to regroup with the team, and most notably avoid the Bastion. Oh, he's put face to face with it. By Wicca, though, a beautiful little boop to finish out the fight.
I think great job from Hive, just to kind of create a little barrier of protection around Sugareru, just making sure that the Bastion is going to be able to find every kill that they really need, I think, in that moment to equalize here in position and an economy. Now Trick Room's looking to get back into this fight here, and they're going to go ahead and work their way all the way to the low ground. Have to be careful of these walls, but there it goes, actually. That's a resource committed by Hive, I think, earlier than they really would have liked.
Artillery, Amplification Matrix, all staging ultimates here. The tricky part is actually just being the Reinhardt in front of that much damage, but Infected and Astronex more than familiar. The bullets being thrown at them. Now comes the real lethality. The Blizzard out, Infected caught in it. Astronex forces the charge out. Oh, but it's traded for Sugareru. Now there's only one Bastion on the field, and it's Pummy. He's tearing holes in all of them. That's a 3K for the Bastion.
Basically the exact same fight that we just got through flipped, where we saw the tank go down, everybody left standing from the team just winds up circling around the Bastion and letting the Bastion just pump out pressure. Last time it was Hive, this time it was Trick Room, and now we get into what could be the last fight here of the sub-map. Trick Room in a position of defense as they're looking to get Magic 8-Ball's ultimate up as well as soon as possible.
Don't get shattered. Don't get shattered. Don't get shattered. That's all that Astronex is thinking right now. So critical. They want to be able to use that sound barrier aggressively, or at least to match 8-Balls. Oh, the shatter lands! It's got enough! It forces out the sound barrier. Magic 8-Ball gets to use theirs later now to engage this fight properly, and it looks like it's enough. The health bars of Hive so much lower, but it doesn't matter. They keep themselves up. Sugareru is able to get one before going down himself, and we've seen this before. The Bastion that lives longer often has the final laugh, and Pummy is chuckling all over the place, lighting up the likes of Hive, and sending us into a map number 2 with Trick Room up 1-0.
They're still going to compete for this, but yeah, this is over here. Trick Room going to be able to claim this one. A weird ending to what was otherwise a pretty high energy affair between these two teams in the second sub map. Certainly, I think a better look. I mean, when we talked about it before we got into this second round here, I mean, we literally mentioned, okay, hopefully they can just brush off what happened in what you're seeing on your screen right now, because this was absolutely one-sided. to start with. But Hive is back in this one, and now I'm more excited that they're going to have an opportunity to pick a map and start figuring things out from their side of things, as opposed to maybe playing into Trick Room's game, which is, I think, how things started.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to break that down into two maps because they went very differently. The first one in Underground, I think you can really chalk up to two things. Number one, just winning the first fight being as vital as it is on that particular point, especially in this meta. Getting a Hanzo, a Sojourn, a Bastion set up in that high ground is practically unable to be broken into a lot of the time. But the second thing that Trick Room is doing that I was noticing, a lot of the time they were doing a great job managing their burst damage going into the opposing side. It's little stuff, but the half second, the milliseconds between your Fire Strike going out and your Bastion's alternate fire going out, right? Little stuff like that is the difference between a Baptiste being able to land a heal in between the damage coming through and it just one-shotting your squishies. And that's something Trick Room did phenomenally throughout both maps, with layering that burst damage together to make for some really lethal combos.
Yeah, and I'm looking to see probably a lot more of that as well when we go into our second map here. And look, there's been a lot of repeats, I would say, so far in this meta. We've seen a lot of maps kind of popping up more than others. And Antarctic Peninsula has been certainly, I think, the favorite map so far in this tournament for Control. King's Row, probably up there as well for Hybrid. So that's going to be our map number 2 here that we're diving into. And remember, this is going to be Hive's map pick. And while we go into this map, Dor, I think it's important for us to talk about, what are the looks that we could potentially get. But the thing about King's Row is that you really can't nail it down as a map, right? There's just so many options right now in the meta. It's so diverse that you could see things like Winston, you could see things like Reinhardt, you could see a ton of different types of compositions, especially here in NA.
Yeah, I think we kind of expect it to be this Reinhardt map. And look, I want it to be just as much as anybody else, but realistically, it's become so much more flexible over time. Everything from Sigma, Orisa, Winston, Ball, Reinhardt, we've seen everything at some point in time on this map, and it's all been played relatively well. I think the question now lies on Hive. What do they want to do? Because obviously, trying to match it 1-to-1 was a bit of a struggle. It cleaned up a bit on the second point where it is a bit easier to recap after the first cap has been done, and it's clear that they can compete on the composition should they want to just tidy up a few mechanical issues and try and run it back. But do they want to try and do that this early into the series? Do they want to risk giving up a match point this early on?
Yeah, it's a tough call to make right now, and when you get into a map like King's Row as well, this could be such a deflating map as well if you do get onto it and you lose momentum early and you can't capture anything. It becomes very difficult. We've seen that actually in this tournament already. We've seen that in the past in different metas as well. So definitely got to be careful about how you're going into this. Got to make sure that, of course, when you're looking at that mirror matchup, potentially, if you're Hive, if you're saying, okay, we want to go into this and we want to, obviously we're expecting the Rhine potentially, and we're expecting that we're going to be playing into it. That we have a lot of concepts in mind of how to get out of sticky situations, because on this type of map, on a hybrid or on escort in general, you can get stuck for a long time, and that is mentally defeating. It is debilitating to get into those ruts. And when you're talking about a team that may have some players that don't have as much experience or veteranship, they might get stuck into that, and that's where problems can arise, even though there's so much talent there. So I think both of these teams have the capacity to get away from that, and I'm hoping that is going to be the case, because this is, if they can, otherwise going to be a great matchup, a great series, and certainly a great map for us as a map number 2.
Yeah, I've got one problem that might arise that's going to be, I think, particularly difficult to solve. We talked about this over in EU, but the Hanzo, dude, it's a big problem. And on King's Row, almost more so than any other map, every team has pulled out a pocket Hanzo on King's Row at some point. During Rush, it became super meta to run the Hanzo on King's Row in particular. And with Boat on the team, I expect it to be coming out. I think like I said, we saw the red carpet kind of rolled out by players like Vision and such, but now every team is really starting to understand, especially in NA, just the power that pick can have, and I fully expect it to come out.
Yeah, that selection specifically, especially on King's Row, dates back even last year. If you go even deeper back with Tree on Odyssey, was pulling out the Hanzo consistently on King's Row and just absolutely just pressuring down rush comms, just absolutely decimating teams by having that pick potential, having that pressure. It's just such a dynamic pick as a threat. And a lot of teams have kind of decided, there's a lot of variance right now. There's a lot of diversity in the meta, and that kind of has a great way, that pick rather has a great way of playing well into virtually everything. I mean, it's a little bit safer now as well. You get that cooldown reduction with the latest patch as well, because this is on live patch. So a lot to look out for. I think that is something that I think we can probably expect to see, at least at some stage in this one. But nonetheless, I mean, we started with Bastion. There's no reason to drop the Bastion necessarily. I think overall, if I was going to create a comp, I would probably go with the Hanzo myself. But Bastion, Cassidy, all options, all good ones.
Yeah, I think the Bastion on defense is a bit tough, because also it plays into the Hanzo, and the Hanzo plays very well into it. So, no, I suspect some big changes coming through for these teams, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Hive shift things up big time. You guys told us what you think, though. 30% Hive, 70% Trick Room. This far into the bracket, I think that's a pretty stark result for a team that's not named Peps.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, exactly. That is... Peps has a massive fan base, but you see Trick Room have a...
Okay.
I mean, they had a great start, and it is going to be Hive coming out again with that same composition. Again, there's no real reason to swap the Bastion other than the fact that, you know, you might want a different type of style. Certainly, the Bastion requires a lot of resources that takes away from the resources that your Reinhardt, for instance, would be able to receive. Cassidy would probably require a lot less. Hanzo would also require a lot less, but it's just a shift in the focus of the comp and where the resources are going. But still, Bastion does a ton of damage. So
You're right. If you're losing, swap more damage has been kind of the genuine answer here. But I do think, like I said, the Hanzo's got a good matchup into it. And if you lose that forward hold around Hotel, things get dicier, because then you start getting into fall-off range, right? Things get tough. Hummy, though, keeping the Bastion. They're just going to match, man. They spot the composition. They said, we beat you on it before. Just run it back, which I think is a perfectly valid take from Trick Room. There's no need to try and counter anything here. When you've got walls as beautiful as that, Astronex caught off on the wrong side of this one. Same thing goes for his May. Chimes force back. The Fire Strike takes away the lives of two innocent victims. And Trick Room, as easily as they made the previous two sub-maps look, we're going to make the point A of King's Row look.
you can see that Trick Room obviously has a very distinct playstyle that is very easily
dominating
downloaded.
Is that what you mean?
Okay, it's easy to download though. I mean, you see what they're doing. They're just saying 3, 2, 1. Bastion goes into tank mode. They put the wall up, and they're just slamming into your tank. That is the objective. It's effective and it's good and it's smart, but it is.
Oh, they're doing it again too.
There you go.
Oh, they spot out Shooter on the backside, though. This is smart. Pressuring down that Bastion, leave Astronex open, that little bit of extra time. Forcing them back into the hallway as well, where you can much more easily deal with them as a Reinhardt. That's actually really well played, but I like what you're talking about there, though, right? Smashing the main tank with damage, yes, but what it comes down to is how quickly their burst is coming out. It's faster than Hive's.
Yeah, that is the case. This has kind of become a little bit of a DPS race in a lot of cases, and it just is a factor of Trick Room being the more explosive team. They're the team that is getting the damage off faster. You even look back at our first submap of Antarctic Peninsula, same thing there, right? I mean, it was just that they were faster in getting the damage off. It wasn't very much flanking necessary. It was just, we're going to come at you, you're going to come at us, we're going to put the wall up, and we're going to explode your tank, and it's just a race.
Okay, there's no way Trick Room try to fight this now. They do have more ultimates. Maybe they go for it. Oh my god, yeah, it's a very real possibility. Shadow's available, but everyone's caught in this blizzard. Astronex, good as dead now, maybe not, but the Amplification Matrix will make sure of that. Bumblebee, forced out. Smart stuff by Trick Room. Losing your Bastion would have, they dissuaded a lot of teams from taking that fight, but they recognize their advantage.
You can also see that a lot of emphasis is placed upon Infected as well. I mean, he has 9 of the team's final blows, of which there are 14 total. So, I mean, not even just that, but also clearly the highest damage in the lobby, and that is also accounting for Bastion players. So a lot of cleave pressure, again, that explosive cleave that they have, Infected is kind of the tip of the spear for that.
I think the big thing is with that 100 HP damage, it combos so well, right? A May right click to the head with the Reinhardt Fire Strike kills. A Bastion Mine with the Reinhardt Fire Strike also kills. Now it's going to be Hive taking the fight to them, throwing out a Blizzard. Astronex charges them right on into it. Shatter's free, but oh my god, I wouldn't have been able to help myself, I'll tell you what. Maybe he should have pressed that button. Oh, maybe he definitely should have pressed that button. Trick Room are fighting back, but without boat, it's going to be a lot harder.
without boat and without ults as well, it's going to be almost impossible. And they recognize that just as well as we do. So they're going to be falling back and making sure to get the rest of their team. But you look at the time bank here, 440. Obviously, so much to work with. Hive absolutely has to start draining this away from them, and quickly. They have a lot of control on offer between Astro and Sugareru, both of them having their ults online.
I mean, it's difficult. Hive are going to throw out ultimates here, and they're going to throw out the Immortality field. Blizzard comes out from Trick Room, though. Oh, it hits nice. It hits the entire corner, which not only freezes people, but sections off Astronex away from his healers that he needed so badly. Quick fight win for Trick Room. And now all those ultimates that Hive had, Trick Room are coming up on. This is dangerous.
Astronex just absolutely getting tortured in this lobby. Trick Room have just put every ounce of resource, every ounce of damage, pressure, whatever they can into making sure that there is no Ryan on the enemy team. Infected going to be allowing his team to fall back into the safety away from that Ant Matrix. And you see that wall coming up again, a resource committed that I think they would like back.
Blizzard's out again. A nice wall stops it for a moment. Looks like we're just trading ultimates, though. A lot of pressure being put onto Astronex, and maybe they can turn this some kind of way. Infected is in the worst corner. Oh, he tries for the Shatter. It's clever, but not clever enough. Astronex has seen that one before. Gets back in position in front of them as well. The Shatter now a threat up against Trick Room, but they barely managed to make a dent in the defense of Hive, who still have ultimates.
Yeah, I think Hive made out like bandits there. We saw the wall come up. Trick Room was just slamming into them, but the Blizzard from the Blizzard from Chime helped them out. Now, though, Magic Mayfall and Hanbei both going to have their ults into this next fight, and I think that is a major cause for concern for Hive if they can't kite their way out of here. And Sugareru didn't get the memo.
He's hiding. He's hiding. He's like a fat man behind a telephone pole playing hide and go seek in the cartoons. Like, they can definitely see him back there. He does survive somehow. Holy cow. Oh, also just manages to get through. It feels like every time this is things have gone. Trick Room unable to find final blows on the likes of Hive, and now things get dangerous. Locked in the corner. Hive all segmented away by the wall of boat. They look to collect, but it's Pummy who falls. Reverse Uno card has been played, and now out comes the artillery, raining on the parade of Trick Room. The Shatter not enough to collect any kills. Infected moves forward, suspecting he might have gotten something lethal in those moments. He didn't, but what might have is his Blizzard. They got the Bastion, and the pressure's been relieved, but they simply don't have the heals to pick Infected back up on his feet. The spawns are closer for Hive, and they'll hold on.
Oh, man, getting that kill on Infected just as Hanbei arrives. I mean, desperation for Hive, but worked out in their favor. Infected bought them time, just not enough to save his own life, and now 1:45 on the clock or so here. Hive in a pretty decent spot. Obviously, again, they have that respawn advantage. That's something that they're going to have to probably rely on. But again, Trick Room has been very explosive. Oh, Infected. Oh, man.
I'd like to point out that in each of these fights, exactly one tank is having fun.
That's fair. It's never both. One is getting ripped to pieces, and the other one is cleaving once that one died. Yep.
Let me pause real quick as well. That's a nice pick. That's actually going to Trick Room a little bit of space here. They're going to at least buy themselves the first corner for that. It also turns the ultimates around. Hive have been an ultimate economy advantage the entirety of Point C, and now they're not.
Yeah, now they're going to be behind, but just for a little bit here. I mean, Pummy's going to get a reset. Trick Room going to come up and have a lot of their ultimates coming online, but Hive in a similar situation. It's just about staying alive long enough. Fortunately, that's just not the case. Okay.
Long enough is easier said than done. Time comes at a premium in this game here. Back is Infected forced, but he's right back to the card. It's going to cruise across that finish line. The ultimate advantage, you have to hand it to Hive. They maintained it for a very long time. They ripped probably nearly 4 minutes off of the clock there by just cycling their ultimates appropriately, always matching the opposing side and never really letting that advantage go, but it was bound to slip eventually.
I mean, yeah, I think a lot of the credit for Hive really kind of comes down to the fact that they were able to take a situation in which they got dominated in team fights. Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at the data and you're seeing, okay, what are the stats across the board? You know, how many team fights are you successful in? They were getting bodied in a lot of them, but they got this thing down to about 30 seconds and put themselves in a position where if they're able to kind of dictate the tempo and the position of a lot of these fights when they go on attack, they're in a great spot to be able to steal this map away, even still. And that's coming off the back of a situation where we were seeing Trick Room going into the final phase of the map with what, like 440 on the clock? So that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it was a brutal hold. Trick Room don't exactly have their work cut out for him here. And it seems like Hive, it wasn't just the ultimate advantage that they played well. They started playing that neutral a lot better too, which was where we saw Trick Room dominate a large majority of the time. So if they can keep that specific part of their play from point C going, they may find themselves in a good spot.
All right, Trick Room. No surprises here for comps at all on either side, at least right now. Obviously, we've talked about it before that there are some different variants that you could opt for here, mostly with regards to the Bastion swapping to things like Cassidy or Hanzo, but not going to be taken up by either of these teams. Instead, they're going to keep at it with the Bastion, so a lot of explosive shield pressure into walls, into trying to find an isolation pick, and that's exactly what's going to happen here, probably.
I mean, this is the definition of running at them and just hitting them with everything you have. Either team, though, loses a player. Both of them will trade immortality fields, though. And now we take a 12, 13-second break as we wait for the Bastion cooldown to come back up. And here we go again here. Okay, we've seen this one. Wall, Bastion, wall, other Bastion. Shooting. Neither Reinhardt loses their shield. Infected forced to hold his a bit longer, though. That's a lack of resource now that Trick Room need to be careful of. Hive look to exploit it. They take space as Infected calls his team back, and maybe they took a little bit too much space. Astro next low, but not down. How's he alive? What? It's traded immortality fields. Both Bastions down. The fight lies on a knife's edge, but the implication matrix from Abyss, so powerful, and being able to solidify the position. Hanbei just wasn't quite there yet. You have to think it was that extra healing onto Astronex that got him there in the first place. Infected now storms forward with the implication matrix of his own, but without the Bastion to really do the damage through it.
Oh, Trick Room stabilizing here in spite of Hive having that barrier up. Magic Ball stayed alive for so long, but now he's going to go down. Infected sure to follow. Okay. Oh, that is Hive capturing the point, and I think the way that they were able to capture it really puts Trick Room on the back foot, because now Trick Room's going to have extremely far spawns. Not separated, fortunately for them. They don't have, you know, people on short spawn, people on long spawn, but still, Trick Room gonna have to gift away a lot of cart progress now because of the timing at which they lost that fight and the fact that they didn't have sound barrier available for it.
Artillery out. It's Infected being targeted down, and oh my god, that's a direct hit, Captain! Infected is sunk like a battleship. He'll trade himself out, but positionally a big win here for Hive, who don't have to play through that big choke.
And I think this is just going to be some free progress until we see Trick Room get back into position. Then they're going to push back Hive, and Hive's going to reset and get set up for another fight. I think Astronex is going to be one of the earliest ones to actually arrive back, so they'll be able to work this corner. And that's an important note here, because they don't want to fall back into that choke. They want to play this open space and own it.
Okay, the opposite scenario this time, starting off with their artillery from the Bastion ult, but that also means your Bastion's not in turret form. Sugarberry takes that opportunity to step forward and mow down Infected through an application matrix. That's well placed. Trick Room choose their moment to strike, but it was too soon. Hive circumvent it with an attack of their own.
And faster paced as well for their attack. I mean, a little bit longer, or sorry, a little bit larger of a time bank, as Trick Room now are forced to try to find a foothold without anything in their back pocket. I mean, you look at the economy here, and it's destitute. It is completely barren. Luckily for them, somehow Infected keeps finding these fire strike kills, and I don't know where they're coming from, but they've had to rely on them almost.
I mean, you hit enough people with the fire. He's just more accurate. I hate to say it, but he's hitting more of them than Astronex is, and that's what it really comes down to. The more lines you throw out, the more fish you're going to catch.
I mean, he's about on par with Pummy and Sugareru in damage output right now. And that's accounting for, obviously, when they were just stampeding and he was cleaving. And then also the fights that they've been losing now as of late since they've gone to defense.
Time holding a much more passive position. I like how Hive play their Bastion ults. They play them for time, they play them for space, and they make sure that they're not in a place where Trick Room can engage on them. That was a mistake Trick Room made in the previous fight. was using it in too close a position to Hive where they could actually take the engagement instead of having to deal with the artillery. Now, with them forced back from the Bastional, the position's kind of beautiful for Hive, who have the Blizzard to push in with. Did it go into the map? Ain't that a bummer? Trick Room used one of their own, and Astronex is a very, very sad Reinhardt right about now. Trick Room are running out of ultimates though, and somehow you didn't lose the fight. Despite losing a Blizzard down the side of the map, they've still got a chance. Hive swarm forward, and Astronex, oh, he can smell the shatter. He can taste it on the tip of his tongue. Infected knows it's coming. It's just a matter of time. Fakes it under the cart. Oh, but Infected knows all too well that trick. Gives it back to him and sends Hive packing.
Now Infected's going to be the one with the shatter in the next fight as well, which means Astronex's going to have to play this pretty defensively, looking to try to bait that cooldown out so that he can block it. I mean, this is going to be a back and forth, it feels like, with both of these Reinhardts trying to go toe-to-toe with one another and catch the enemy team off guard, especially when all things outside of that are one-to-one. However, Trick Room, that's not the only trick up their sleeve for this next fight, right? I mean, one of the other big things here is going to be that Sound Barrier is available for Trick Room. I think they want to try to destabilize this as much as they can so that they're not, you know, without resources yet again trying to hold in their defenses come the next fight if they win this one.
To be invested again. The common thus far to trade out the Bastion abilities, but with Boat going down, Trick Room try to strike while the Iron's hot. They have at least the Sound Barrier that came out to get their way into this fight. Oh, but they're running out of juice, man. Without the help of Boat, it's so quick. Infected though lands the shatter. He buys time. He takes down the Mei. Astronex falls as well. The spawn advantage might be enough here. Oh, but it's going to be so hard. The Bastion's still alive. Boat's buying as much time as is humanly possible. I think they get back. I think they get back here. Even without the Blizzard, they probably get it done, but they invest the Blizzard nevertheless. 145 on the clock.
Yeah, another thing here, too, is that Infected needs to make that swap back over to the Reinhardt pretty quickly, but it's going to be behind a little bit in the ult charge. Not too bad, though. Big thing here is that, obviously, with Trick Room investing so much into that fight, they don't really have a good way to answer the Blizzard from Chime or the Sound Barrier that's going to come from Bumblebee as well. So I think I would expect Hive to just go ahead and W key this one in. Why not?
Trick Room tried to beat them to said punch, and wow, it worked beautifully.
I can't believe it did.
Time falls instantly. I think there's definitely something to be said for taking the fight while they were in the open as opposed to while Trick Room were forced back in their own long sideline.
The other thing, too, here is that Magic 8-Ball actually wound up getting that boop off and was able to get a lot of the pressure off in that fight as well, so farmed up a ton of value through the Sound Barrier charge as well. So now at 73%, they might have a chance if they can, again, just buy time. I mean, I hate saying it, but...
I mean, we're talking milliseconds of time being bought, and it simply cannot be purchased. It's too expensive. Hive, move forward. Blocked wisely by Astronex. Spends a lot of shields doing it. He's got the shatter. It would not be ill-spent on a singular Bastion in this kind of meta. Shatter available to shut down any sort of recontest of it. Maybe they get back in. Maple, though, goes down 95% to Sound Barrier. You have to think that was their last chance.
Yeah, that pretty much is done and dusted at this stage. There's no fighting back if you don't have that sustain. So it is going to get capped, but ultimately, again, a lot of time spent in this final section of the map. And in fact, we saw a faster pace going into the final section, that third stage. And ultimately, more time stolen by Trick Room, where they actually finished with 18 seconds more than Hive. So this is going to go quite a bit further. And with what we saw back on point A, after Wonder Door, is this going to be a situation of who can actually defend a push or maybe two pushes on point A, or is this going to go with how we saw pushes through point A and B, just all the way through, and just whoever can make it to the first corner and point C wins?
I do think that this is one of those metas. It's like, if you ever think of ball metas that we had in Overwatch 1 and stuff like that, whenever Ball or Winston in later Overwatch 1 was meta, we would see maps commonly get ended before the second point was over, because the fights would go on so long and teams could stagger out with their insane mobility. This is literally the opposite of that.
Yeah, fights are like 4 seconds long.
The fights end like that, and the amount of mobility on these teams is next to none.
I think the funny thing is that most of their mobility comes from the fact that they're clumped together and then they clash and then everyone dies and then that's it. So
yeah, the most mobility they have is how quickly they go back to spawn. All right, same comms, no surprises. I've coming out though, looked fantastic on their first take last time. Let's see what they can offer us up here with just a minute on the clock to do it. Last time it took them 2 rounds of Bastion transformations to get their way in, but this time wrapping Hotel. Good response by Trick Room. I mean, they don't even blink taking this angle. Hive back away though. They hold their Bastion cooldown, but they're punished for it. It was a risky call to try and save such a valuable cooldown while Trick Room invested theirs, and they pay the price.
Hefty one at that. Now Hive, they're going to be forced to fight this in a very particular way. They now need to make their way to the objective and have someone at least stalling the point. That means that they might either have to all stack on it, which is not good, or they're going to have to split, which is also not good. So, good luck here, Hive. Going to make the best of what they've got.
Astronex shoved in a corner. Oh, shoved back to spawn. Trick Room wanna try and strike, but they still got a Bastion up while the fight is still volatile. And they do. They take a lot of damage off, but it's just not enough to finish anybody. Chime will fall eventually, but it's at the cost of Infected's entire health bar. Bastion all coming out could be a danger, but Astronex calmly dissuades it with his shield. A first point will be capped for Hive, despite a rough first fight.
All comes down to that first pick. Hive somehow managed it. And now you're going to see Hive just trying to get as much value from this OT push as they possibly can. Trick Room trying to get back into this one. Here's the crux of the situation, though. We see a lot of teams try to hyper-invest, try to stop them at the first opportunity. And if it's not a guarantee, sometimes that might not be the best play. So we'll have to see how Trick Room wants to play this. They certainly have some options here. Amp Matrix could offer a ton of lethality, especially knowing that Infected has those fire strikes at hand.
No, forget the fire strikes. The fire strikes aren't going to be there. Infected's playing forward. The Amp Matrix is going to be used while they're walking through this choke. Oh, the Shatter could blow. Oh my god, Infected barely got that one off. The Amp Matrix can be used further back, though, should they want to. Don't get it. Astronex walks past, gets his entire team shattered. The Blizzard is also massive. They almost didn't finish off health bars there before the sound barrier was able to connect, but luckily for Trick Room, it is solid. It looks fantastic, and they'll take a fight after it. Holding just after the choke there. We're honestly in a meta and in a spot where those, not meters, those feet, those centimeters are what began to matter in a choke like that.
Absolutely, because now it's 118.
Initiating match.
My first thought is, okay, obviously, yeah, you still have to push through point A, but if you have a fight timing end at the wrong time where you're going to get those short spawns,
exactly,
they could come back and they could still win that. Even if you take point A, it's not a guarantee. And on the other hand, if you allow Trick Room to get two ticks on the cap, and then you wipe them and they come back, if you have a late death and you're on long spawn, the map is basically done. So timing is key here on both ends of the spectrum.
And then think about that. You need to be thinking about that while you're also thinking about not just being torn to bits. All at the same time. And rotating your cooldowns properly and rotating and not peeking the Bastion for a quarter second. Like, what these players have to contend with in such a short amount of time right now is absurd, and it only got more complicated with the involvement of overtime.
118. Gotta keep your eye on that. So there's going to be, realistically, probably about 2 attempts at this. Maybe 3 if things go as fast as they have been. I would say normally this would only be 2, but with this, possibility for 3 is there. So Trick Room, probably going to go fast and quick. Curious to see if they want to go through Hotel here, and that's exactly... Oh, they're feigning it onto the point now.
Bastion's traded, no surprise there. Quick little ice block in front of him, and it's Pummy getting mowed down. A well-timed immortality field. I have no clue what kind of reaction time Hanbei has, because that was nuts. Into flank now is Chime. Actually sections off the Bastion, but with the Baptiste there to support him, it might have been a death sentence for his own team. Now not having the bait to peel for the Reinhardt. Oh no! The gamble doesn't pay off! I don't think there's
they have
short
long
spawn in sight. Oh, it's all 5. Okay. Good map.
Yeah, long spawn for all 5. That means that everything comes down to Bumblebee's ability to taxi this one out. They're going to come in. Chime.
The flank bat. Oh, God, here. Oh, no.
Chime has to touch, and I mean, they're going to get there for sure. Without question, they're going to get there. But a lot of slowing coming in from Trick Room as the wall gets thrown out.
They
And it's
don't
going to
know.
come
They
down
don't
to
know.
time.
Here, they don't know. Here, they don't know. Please, somebody tell. Oh, okay. Honestly, I think it's way uglier to lose to the flanking Bastion. I've seen C9s. That's fine. Hummy was about to go to town.
Though there was just no shot that they make it back. I mean, they had what 20 seconds to go the entire distance of the map between there to point A, and they had to regroup, and so some time spent making sure that everybody was together so that they could get the speed boost. Because if they're not all 5, they're definitely not winning the fight, especially after losing the first one. So once you lose that first fight and you allow those like 2 ticks that we talked about, I mean, we literally prefaced this with that situation that was an opportunity here for Trick Room, and that's exactly what we got.
Yeah, the spawns were brutal. I can't stop thinking about it. Hummy was about to make that look like the beaches of Normandy for a second. Like, it was not gonna be pretty. But alas, they survived, all 5 members, but down a map. And another one, an important one at that, is Trick Room proving themselves quite strong at this composition. I think Hive have solidified that neutral a little bit more because Trick Room are winning it consistently. But they managed to find that burst damage, and given the longer fights, I think Hive more often is coming out on top. Right? When they have cover to work with, when they can bait out cooldowns and kind of test the rotations of Trick Room more than just how fast Trick Room can throw damage at you. Well, they're not getting those fights as often as they'd like to, and oh god, that was depressing Blizzard. Don't remind me.
One thing I think that we're also seeing with Trick Room is the ability to kind of purchase time and purchase space through the use of the Earthshatters. And I think one thing that's been missing, at least to a degree here, has been the fact that, you know, those really top tier teams, which, I mean, both of these teams could actually be top tier teams. We have to wait to see, you know, further into the bracket if that is indeed the case, but certainly some potential there, is that you'd like to see the way that they kite away from advantageous teams who are utilizing resources, trying to get ahead of things, and they kite away those advantages until they basically become neutral and they can create an advantage of their own. And we saw that in EMEA earlier as well. I'm not seeing as much of that. It seems like teams are really struggling to actually kite away. And part of that is, I think, largely in part due to the fact that these teams are playing so aggressive with so much front-loaded pressure that there's really not very much opportunity to actually kite away from anything, because you've got a wall behind you and a Bastion in front of you and everybody cleaving on top of your Reinhardt. And at that point, you have to commit to the fight.
I mean, look, man, they've been sprinting through health bars. We've been sprinting through this match. It's time we take a break. Grab some water, grab some orange slices, get what you need. It's halftime. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you got what you needed and did what you need to do. We've got a map 3 coming up at Shambali Monastery. Another new one to the map pool here. It's one that we actually haven't seen at all.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting map. I think when we look at Antarctic Peninsula and what that brings to the table, there's certainly a lot of, I would say, pretty stable opinions on what to expect from that one. But with Shambali, there's, I think, a little bit more of a dynamic approach. Obviously, we've seen teams, at least I have seen teams talking about how to approach this map, and there's been a lot of different looks. I think one of the things that teams have tried, maybe not so much as of the last couple of days, but going into this, I think Ball was one that teams were kind of excited about. But with all the changes and everything and how the meta has been developing, I've seen a lot more of the Rhine just across the board. So it's hard to say exactly what to expect with this one. Especially as you get into different sections of the map where things become level ground or linear. That's where you expect to see more of the Reinhardt. But in that first section of the map, oh man, I mean, it's anyone's ball game. It could be anything.
Oh, one second. Just got a DM from Strider, and it says, "It's time for the return of Ball." It starts today. Very ominous.
I don't believe that he did that.
You want to I will post receipts, but regardless, I'm like you said, it's out there. The meta for this map is fairly undefined, and there's a lot of opportunity to make it count.
Oh yeah, big time. And this is what I was talking about. I mean, if they do go down that route, it was something that I was hearing that teams were attempting to do, and it is a map that you can get a lot of value out of that pick. It's just a question of whether or not that is going to be the case, and if they wind up sticking with it, because we have seen teams trying things like the Wrecking Ball and then ultimately deciding, okay, this isn't working, and then they swap off of it. I mean, how many times have we seen that in EMEA specifically? That could very well be the case here as well. But Innate has been known to pull out the Wrecking Ball, I think, outside of probably more than their counterparts across the other region.
Yeah, I don't know how much I expected in this particular matchup. Like, with how well it's been going for Trick Room, I suspect they don't want to change much, and the Rhine is still pretty playable here. I don't know if you want to bring the Bastion along in tow.
Infected has a Wrecking Ball, though.
He does.
I mean, he does, so...
I'm just wondering how the rest of the team wants to build around that, you know?
Yeah, you're definitely not doing the May Bastion anymore, I'll tell you that much. Definitely got to swap it up if that is the case, but I expect that this is going to be a different look here. And one thing to note as well is the fact that while we did approach this meta and it was very, I would say, considerably a Reinhardt or Winston based composition type meta, at least from a lot of the really, really consistent teams. Certainly all the other tanks are probably pretty good, to be honest, but overall Junker Queen has kind of stood out as something that has been left behind but has slowly worked its way back into this meta, especially when you're going up against things like the Wrecking Ball. So either of these teams, if they wind up wanting to play Wrecking Ball, which it looks like both are wanting to do that, one team could just swap to Junker Queen, and it is a pretty decent pick into Wrecking Ball. I'm not going to call anything a hard counter, and certainly I wouldn't say that's necessarily the case, but it does play well into it, especially if you can rush and kind of run down the enemy team and get some value out of that. We've certainly seen Trick Room capable of that. We've seen Hive capable of that as well. So
Strider has foretold the future, man. The return of Ball starts today. We've got them both locking it in.
For one map only.
for one map only. It might not be one map for Strider, but his game's not on yet. Mummies is Abyss down. I mean, Hive more bruised in ego than anything else, but they're going to have to go back and collect themselves until that Zenyatta's back.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just 5v4 advantage, and now the rest of Hive is... Oh, man, they're losing another body. This is just 2-on cart freedom for Trick Room. Spine up, free space, as much as on offer by Hive. You see the replay here as Zen just peeks a little bit outside. Wasn't expecting Pummy to jump up and delivered there. Trick Room, they do have Cassidy now. Pummy made that swap, and you see this emphasis now for Hive on trying to, I mean, probably deal either with the backline or with Infected with this swap from Chime. A lot of dive potential between these two DPS picks.
The DPS line of Trick Room is the one that falls first, though. Quick dive from Hive. Now it's 3 players locked in a corner, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to fight their way out of this one here.
Yeah, no shot here. Just going to be collecting these last couple of kills. Magic 8 Ball going to drop just as well as Infected. Minute off the clock here, but I think one of the big things to look at is who is Hive trying to target? Is it just whoever gets separated? Do they have a target in mind? Are they looking for Infected? Are they looking for Magic 8 Ball in the backline? Because that's the thing here too, is Magic 8 Ball very much known for playing things like BAP and Lucio, not necessarily the Zenyatta. So could be, yep, there you go. Could be something that they could look out for.
Oh man, this has not been a fun experience for the backline of Trick Room. I mean, every time Infected moves forward, somebody dies behind him. It costs lives here.
Big time. Trick Room, I think, struggling now, especially to deal with, I mean, even the Sombra. A lot of people talk about the Sombra. It's like, oh, it's not viable. It's not this, it's that, it's, you know, whatever. But here the thing is, I mean, if you have the dive potential, you can just delete people outright with that damage that you're going to provide there. Just everything front loaded. You can see it being matched now as well by Pummy. I mean, there you go.
Ah, there it is again. Okay, backline's gone before we can even talk about it. The EMP easily followed up on, and there's plenty more ultimates to go. I mean, Transcendence, the Nano Boost, the Mines, Pulse Popper, all still options for Hive. And honestly, I don't think you have to be a fortune teller to foresee a Pulse Bomb and Magic 8 Ball's future, at least at this rate.
Yeah, especially with Magic 8 Ball not having Transcendence to defend against it, and there's not as much protection in this comp for the Zenyatta. You kind of have to rely on the Tracer marking, or you have to rely on Hanbei getting off a sleep dart. There's just not as much inherent protection in here, and it makes it difficult for the Zen player to survive.
I mean, Pummy swapped over to the Sombra, and I do like Pummy's Sombra in particular. I don't like his odds of living in a room full of mines. Astronex could put him to that fate soon. Sugar actually pulses Infected as opposed to looking for Magic 8 Ball. Suppose a larger target, and it's still free value. Don't worry, Magic 8 Ball will fall eventually.
Getting down pretty close. Hive needs to be careful, but certainly a little bit of a trade there. With Chime going out, that means Trick Room can focus more pressure now onto Astronex, as Magic 8 Ball is going to send them forward with the Transcendence.
I think they get out of this. As long as Astronex can survive, yeah, they'll be able to back away, pick up the health pack, and then regroup the Contestus card on top of the hill. Hive are coming in, and the most notable thing about this is they're closer to EMP, which is the only chance of an ultimate coming online. Instead, it's a straight-up engagement. Abyss and Bumblebee have beautiful sightlines, though, and it's Infected taking the brunt of the damage from those sightlines. Pummy tries to make his way into the backline to get something going, but this one's as good as done. Trick Room are nowhere near ultimates. Hive have a Pulse Bomb and an EMP online. Yeah, Trick Room don't even bother touching. I'm not sure they could.
Yeah, no shot. No one was even close. No ultimates, no chance at a touch there. So a full hold here. Definitely don't want to count anyone out, though, at this stage, because we just don't have as much data on this map. Certainly not in officials. Seen a couple scrims, but it doesn't tell the whole story of what's going to be going on in this map, especially with these two teams coming at each other with the Wrecking Ball versus Wrecking Ball mirror that I don't think really anyone anticipated. Certainly both of these players have been known to pull Wrecking Balls out, so I mean, it's not crazy to say that it's happening, but it is something that I think going into this tournament broadcast day, I wasn't really anticipating, I guess.
You think Hive wish they were still playing the Ryan Bastion mirror?
Well, now that they've gotten a full hold, absolutely not.
I think they're very happy with this so far. We've got a match, and they don't bring out a Sombra to do it. Keeping Pummy on the Sojourn. A lot of comfort here for Trick Room. They think that's what's going to get them through, and honestly, I don't think it's a bad one. Like, if you have to get the full hold, trying to do it on something that you haven't quite got the practice with or have the comfort on is probably not the move.
Especially given the fact that you do have some good defensive utility as well. I mean, Hanbei on the Kiriko going to have those Suzus, going to be able to dish out a ton of pressure as well, take duels in the flank as well. I mean, Kiriko can be a duelist in a pinch, so I think offers them a little bit of flexibility in how they take some of these fights. If they're not able to, you know, collate, get together, and find a single target to jump on, well, they have other options.
as well. This comp just survives a lot better. At Zenyatta, I mean, no longer as Zenyatta, now at Lucio, Magic 8-Ball is likely to die about 7 times less than he did in the last round. We're looking for the back line here. Avoids the hack from Chime. In fact, nearly takes out Chime in his own right. They're looking for the back line of Hive, and they found him. The Sharks are swarming the likes of Abyss and Bumblebee, and without the supports, it's not going to last too much longer here. Trick Room, do have to be careful not to overextend, though.
Looks like they almost kind of do here. Hive is going to be able to recontest pretty soon, and Trick Room has to make sure that they get out alive. Hanbei is going to be able to help them do that, but has taken a lot of damage in the process as well. They have to insulate this player long enough for a Magic 8-Ball to get back and reset their health pools, and that's exactly what occurs here. But Hive still has fought their way back into a decent position to take a fight.
Not decent enough, apparently. Biss gone. Fight's not over yet, though. Counter dive by Trick Room. Doesn't look half as successful. The target focus not quite as much there for them.
You can see them just chasing down Astronex as well. They know that they can deal with the Wrecking Ball, then this composition is a lot easier to contend with, and down he goes. So just about half the time bank now drained from Hive by Trick Room. However, still that one big difference with the Sojourn versus the Sombra is the EMP, and Chime is going to have that online for this next fight. No defensive ultimates to deal with it here. Obviously, it's a little bit different now in Overwatch 2 than maybe some people are used to, but still a great offensive utility.
Not finding the opportunity to use it. Here's a good one. Immediately the back line gone. Infected slept actually keeps him out of the fight for quite some time. It's going to force Trick Room back pretty far. They can't reset those health bars. Hanbei going down, make sure of that. Hive are going to continue forward. Getting into one fight territory here. I think there's a contest because the comp is so fast, but is it a good one?
Well, I mean, with 4 ults online, I think as long as someone can just touch it and contest it, then they're going to be in a good spot. And there it goes. Infected, going to buy them some space. And really, it's just a question of, can Trick Room solidify a fight without using too much? Otherwise, Hive is going to be able to take advantage and expose them for that resource expenditure.
Be careful. OC9's rolling in. He's Infected to try and make sure that card doesn't move. But he eats a lot of damage for it. Fortunately, Pummy's there to back him up. Abyss falls, Kitsune rush out, and Hive are on the back foot.
Just like that, Trick Room also with this fight not going as fast, where you see, you know, things get broken down and things take time. Hive trying to stabilize right now. It's just more time that they won't have in the future, and more ult charge as well for Trick Room because they're getting those kills, they're doing the damage, and they're coming away with their lives, so they're able to reset those health pools. That's more ult charge for their sports as well. Obviously, it won't amount to very much, and I think one thing to look out for is the fact that Hive going into this fight that is going to be the last one, I mean, their economy is in a much better state. Wildly better.
I mean, maybe that was the mindset in the last fight, right? Let them burn their ultimates. And that is a perfectly valid mindset. It's bought them a beautiful winning fight. That's a big hack from Chime as well. A valuable health pack when balls are on the field. To build up that EMP, but can't get forced out too early. Hit the hack on the Lucio. All of the team closes in around the likes of one player. Transcendence used by Abyss. Oh, Ball and Titan caught out, but nothing comes of it. The advantage Hive had is slipped through their fingers, and Pummy's more than happy to chop them off one at a time now. Abyss down. Hanbei traded. Both teams lacking a support. The Tracer Shooter Rare is able to pick off one more player, but Pummy's still alive and still a menace until Chime finally finishes them off. The spawn's closed for both sides. Both sides could realistically stagger this out for a long time. It's more about keeping yourself alive, and for Infected, that's too tall a task. Astronex remains the last tank standing on the cart. Now it's up to Boat to try and stagger it out, but it's nigh on impossible in the face of the mines.
Oh, and just like that, just individuals from Trick Room getting isolated and killed off. Magic 8-Ball tried to get out of that fight and reset himself, but unfortunately got caught there as well. And that was just the case for multiple members of Trick Room. I mean, Hive just did a fantastic job of getting into position and just finding those players that were just stringing out and eliminating them, getting rid of them. And I think ultimately, despite what looked like it was going to be a free fight, certainly didn't turn out into one, but the setup still helped them get put into a position where they could pretty easily conclude things in their favor. Obviously, you look back at that health pack steal as well. I mean, that winds up mattering when fights break down into that kind of way.
Yeah, and I think there is something to be said. Like, this is the advantage that being able to defend first gives you, right? Being able to know where the finishing line is, they're able to save their ultimates for that moment, and really just strike with an iron hot. Choose the absolute best moment to go in and finish off the map. You do have to give credit to Trickroom, though. They played it well. Both teams nearly full held, which goes back to what we were saying earlier about just what the speed of compositions can do to maps in their respective lengths, right? When all the fights were breaking down instantly, maps were going all the way to third. But alas, these more bombastic with the longer lasting compositions that we got out of these two teams that sustain fights out for so obscenely long and that can get to the point so quickly, you have a lot of maps end on a point A.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we were talking about when we started things up on this map, and I mean, that wound up working out exactly how it went. It was going to come down to wrecking balls on point A, and if things get away from a team, yeah, we could see a big shift into point B, but overall, point A is the crux of the situation with a map like this, and especially with a map that a lot of people aren't necessarily practicing as much. When you look at that map type, Shambali isn't the map that most people are scrimming on. Most people are scrimming all the other maps, literally everyone but Shambali, probably more often than not. And on top of that, it's also one of the newest maps in the pool as well. So that's kind of what occurred with Periso, and that's pretty much what we're going to be seeing here with Shambali, at least for the time being, especially with those ball comps like you talked about back on King's Row, where those fights just take way longer to get through. You're not talking about those 4-second engage, everyone explodes and it's over. It takes a lot longer to get set up, get into position, find the kills, then everything breaks down and you have to find those stagger kills, and it just takes way longer, and that means less duration to actually find your way through the entirety of the map.
Yeah, I think things are going to change again. We can almost toss that entire map out in terms of analysis. It was pertinent to exactly that map, and we're probably not going to see it again. This is such a diverse meta, and I'm thankful for it, man. Look, we're eating good today on the Pro-Am stream. Every single component of the Sun has been run in EU and NA, but Esperanza offers up something different. I mean, we've seen Winston here. We've seen the Reinhardt be played. We've seen the Orisa come and get some good value. Bastion, at this point, I'm going to stop doubting Bastion comes out in places. These teams seem to be kind of willing to run it because they think it's strong in a lot of places. So yeah. Esperanza certainly doesn't seem out of the cards, at least now.
Yeah, I think return to normalcy is probably the name of the game on this one here. And by normalcy, I mean a composition that I think a lot of teams are slowly starting to deviate from, but nonetheless has been kind of dictating the meta as we approached this tournament. When we're talking about the Mei Rhine rush, bringing in the Bastion, you've got the Lucio, you've got the Baptiste. That's kind of what we expect this one to look like. This is what a lot of teams have been practicing when they're playing Esperanza. That I think when we go into this, that's probably the direction we're going in, especially given the fact that we looked at those first two maps and that's what we saw. And I think map 3 is very much isolated from everything else that's going to be occurring for the rest of this series.
So now we have to shift our tempo all the way back the other direction is what I'm hearing. This is going to be explosive. It's going to be fast. Hive have a couple of things to fix, but I think it's a lot closer than it was in map number 1. Map number 1, it was dominance from Trick Room, but King's Row really did show a lot of fight out of Hive, and most notably in those neutral situations. You started to see the situations where Hive would consistently, like I mentioned then, those longer, more long drawn out fights where they can get rotation after rotation of cooldowns. They seem to have that down to much more of a science than Trick Room do. Trick Room have that first rotation down perfectly, right? They're going to hit you with the most insane amount of burst damage and as quickly as humanly possible. But if you can make them wait out, the second one, the third one aren't quite as coordinated as that first strike, and that's when we've seen Hive pick up big wins.
Curious to see how this pans out because, of course, going to be diving into the map here. And yeah, I mean, the expectation is probably the reality here. Infected, likely going to be on the Rhine. I would imagine Trick Room is going in that direction. If any team doesn't bring out the Rhine, I would probably expect that to be Hive. But with what we've seen, especially with how King's Row went, it was so close. There's no reason not to run it back, I think, unless you really feel like you guys lucked out on that. And I don't think that they're going to feel that way.
Look, we can. This is a positive thing, Rich. Fun new comp, fun new meta.
You just talk to all us old casters the same way. You call us the same name.
Yep. Sorry, I saw the croissant and I was immediately reminded of Rich Rad.
That's fair. That's
That
fair.
guy
I'll
does
give you
that accent
one.
better than anybody. Andy works in a Starbucks. Like it, match made in heaven. Hive though, not a match made in heaven with this composition. Looks like they want to shift things up. They're going over to the Winston. You alluded to them maybe trying to dodge the mirror matchup, and it seems like they want nothing of it.
Yeah, like I said, the only team that was going to switch was going to be Hive, and this is another stable composition within the meta. You talk about all the different looks that teams have been pulling out. This is certainly one that we've seen a good number of times, and also one that I think really puts Pummy on the back foot to a large degree, because Hive can dive in onto that Bastion, and it's very difficult to keep that character upright. It's just such a large hitbox without as big of a health pool as something like a tank would have.
Enemy team is pushing forward.
As long as they do keep it alive, they've got good odds of winning this one. Turns around, burns a Winston. Astronex, only got the glance at his health bar before it hit the deck. This is, I think, as much as one of the teams may not be playing the Bastion composition, the fights are still likely decided in the first couple moments.
Yeah, and now you see those swaps happen as well. Hive said, you know what, maybe this is not going to work. Unfortunately for them, they give up that first fight, and they give up a ton of progress from the bot as well. And now Trick Room are going to have some decent high ground to work with, which means Hive have to be careful about the way that they approach this fight. Trick Room probably going to want to hold this high ground and then try to flip the map onto Hive if they can.
That they do. Hive want a piece of this high ground for themselves, though. They push forward with the Bastion onto it. There is some safe space to play underneath here, so you don't necessarily have to take this engagement. And the first cooldown is going to be up for Pummy. Jugarero used their second, so now it's Hive on the back foot. Immortality field down, and Pummy swiftly moves forward. The first round of ultimates as well, because they were playing the composition first, is being used. Wow, we're schmoving. Look at us go. Infected flying through the walls. He could go all the way. You guys can't see it, but he's still going. You can't see it. He's found the next map. It's unreleased.
Yeah.
Oh my god, is that Colosseo?
Wait, they finished the map. It's done.
Oh my god. He did it. He beat Overwatch 2.
Yeah, that is a drop of the map. That wasn't lag from one person. That is the whole map dropping, unfortunately. So I think what's going to occur here, going to be talking to our producer in a second here just about what they want to do, because this is going to require, absolutely, it's going to require admin to come in and figure out, okay, how do we go about this? Because this is, genuinely, I've been casting contenders for, years now. I'm not going to go into how many, but
I'm sure you've seen your...
I've never seen a map drop like that ever.
No, like server or map, I have no clue, man. You know who I feel bad for? I feel bad for the admins. There's literally no easy decision here, man. It's a tough one all around. It looked good though, man. Trick Room are playing their game. That Bastion composition, they force Hive back onto it. Even if you just end up restarting the map, I think the mental damage alone of Hive having to be okay, I guess we are coming back into this, and having to walk into that same matchup, man. Oh, it's got to be painful. But you know what? We're gonna find out exactly what happens after we send things to a quick little break. We'll get things figured out, get the Reinhardt back inside the map, and then we'll find a restart. Welcome back, y'all. Surprisingly quick break for something like that. You're sitting here thinking like, oh, these poor admins, man, there's tough stuff to do, but they got it nice and tidied up. We're replaying the match. Super easy. Of course, shout out Trick Room for being cool with this because it's kind of just unpreventable. You've got to give respect where it's due. They've taken it very well. They'll replay the map. They're in a fantastic position, and I've got no doubts they can get themselves back there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they probably want to have that neutral fight win back. They want to have that position that they were in back as well because it looked like they were looking pretty solid on second fight, but here's the thing. I mean, there's nothing really to do about that situation. Sometimes the unprecedented happens, and I think Trick Room, we all have to give a major round of applause as much as we can over the internet to this squad that's just saying, you know what, it is what it is. It's unfortunate. Obviously, they don't want to replay it from scratch. They would like to have their advantage back, but there's just nothing to do about it. So we move on. We get back into the map, and we get back into the action as well, because that is obviously we started off with a pretty exciting result, and I'm curious to see now if Hive's going to be doing anything different, because obviously they had one strategy to start off with, and they immediately retracted that, went back over to the mirror, and I imagine that that's probably going to be the case here. That's probably the direction that they're going to start in now, not opting for the Winston, instead going right to the Rhine.
Yeah, they've kind of seen the trap card at this point, right? They know what's coming, and they probably do still swap. It'd be really funny, though, if they still came out on the Winston. If they just, like, really tried to call things out.
Just figure it out.
Yeah. I don't think Astronex has had much fun, though, as the Winston playing into that Bastion. Just got mowed down, man. I think the precision that Trick Room had with this competition is really good, because it's not just a cannon, right? It's not just a lot of damage fired at a main tank all the time. It's when you realize that the cannon can be aimed in practically any direction in an instant. And if you're a millimeter out of position, all that damage that Trick Room has, their ability to throw it out so quickly, can be directed at any player, whether they're diving you, whether they're in front of you. It doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, Trick Room, basically, they just take whatever is the closest thing to them, put a wall behind it, and make it disappear. That has pretty much generally been their strategy so far throughout this series. They've been very, very good at it, very effective in taking all that into account. But I will say that when we get onto this next map, again, there's already been an indication of what both teams are trying to accomplish here. There's going to be no surprises unless both sides decide, you know what, we're going to play some mind games, do a little trickery. I just doubt that that's going to be the case. I think the clearest thing that's on the table here for both of these squads is Trick Room coming back in with the same exact comp. They already proved that they are very solid with it, and even if it does go into a mirror, they probably feel confident there as well. Hive, on the other hand, saw, you know what, that Winston dive, maybe it didn't work. Maybe we have some time to figure it out, but otherwise, I think it's probably a safer option for us to go ahead and take the mirror and not be at a deficit this time when we take that fight. This time, we'll have it in the neutral perspective instead.
We do have to think what this means for the rest of NA's meta, right? NA's meta historically been pretty far from EU's, at least in recent time. They've had very different preferences, right? EU was all over the hog on the last patch, and then previously things had swapped. NA was running all of their own stuff, and other regions speak the same language for a lot of their games. Outside of that, there's not much transition. Both regions think they've got it on lock, and so I don't suspect we're going to be seeing a lot of what we saw in EU and NA later today, but does that mean that this game is the forecast for it? Are we expecting this composition everywhere from every team, or is it just something that Hive and Trick Room have been leaning well into?
Yeah, tough call to make. I definitely have looked at a lot of different teams in the NA region. It seems like a lot of these teams are kind of going in this direction of trying to bring in that Rush composition. I mean, when you look back historically at this region, Rush has been a very, very popular choice. When you talk about regional favorites, Rush has been a regional favorite for this region as much as, Winston-based dive compositions have been favorites in the Korean region. So, I mean, it very much speaks to this population of players. So I think the expectation would be predominantly focused on the fact that we're going to be seeing some Reinhardts throughout this qualifier. And I think probably one of the best teams that winds up making it through the qualifier is likely to be a very Reinhardt Rush-centric team. I think that is just kind of going to be a given at this stage, unless things change. Who knows? I
mean, the Rush is not a surprise. The Bastion being towed in with it on every single map, a little bit more so, but it's not something that we haven't seen. We haven't expected. We've seen it a few times in Scrim. It's just the dominance that it's had over this particular match is really interesting to see, and I'm curious to see if other teams are running specifically that Bastion as much as these two are, because when you think about something like an Esperanto or something like a King's Row, there are other options that are pretty viable, but if this is what teams are landing on, man, it seems to be pretty powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And now what's ahead of us is 10 minutes. Well, up to 10 minutes, I guess. You could cap it earlier, but 10 minutes of what should be an all-out brawl. However, I'm not sure that this is going to be the case. We did joke about this for a moment.
There's like a 10% chance they're messing with us, and then at the same time, okay, 10% chance they're messing with us, 10% chance they roll out on it the same way, kind of out of respect for Trick Room, and then 80% chance they think it could just work, man.
Thing is, too, is that both of these teams are in the winner's bracket, so even a loss here doesn't mean they're out of the tournament. So I think Hive going in for this neutral, I mean, it could be a question of respect. It could be a question of they just like the way that they can take this neutral fight, and if they lose, that's fine. They can swap, and it's whatever. But if they get the win, then they're in a good position. And I think that is something that is the case with this comp, so it's hard to really tell the meaning behind this, but nonetheless, Hive have opted to go with it, and they're holding out on this high ground. You can see it's pretty much playing out exactly the same way. All of these players getting focused in, getting ready to dive into the back line. Trick Room disintegrated them last time. We'll see what happens this one.
I mean, whether or not they actually dive is kind of up for question. They could just sit here and, like, wait for Sugarero to find a pick. He probably is. Like, Sugarero and Abyss are the two most likely people to find a pick. So if they just play neutral, they could realistically do it for a long time. If they don't find a pick ever, though, we will see the first map in contenders decided by 9 meters. Could also be quite a surprise. But yeah, I mean, Hive just aren't going to go for it. They're willing to play that pick, man, which is not unwise. I mean, it's kind of stale, but it's not unwise.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time. Okay, 9 meters still. I'm working.
You just have to knock it antsy. The pick will come to them. It's not going to come to Trick Room. I mean, Boat maybe could do it, but as long as they just sit here, given infinite time, Hive should, in theory, be the first ones to find a pick.
Should. Now, Boat, I think one thing to look out for, though, is the window, though, from Hanbei might offer up the burst. They just say 3, 2, 1, drop the window, and just try to focus in on one person, and then Hive forced to maybe back out. I think this is just going to be a question, not of a pick, just who can just get their support ults online and just say, all right, let's just go. I mean, that's going to be what happens.
The smartest, lamest thing I've ever seen. Here we go. All right. Sorry. A little tired there. Mortality Field comes out. The first dive there. Sound Barrier out for Magic Maple, and Trick Room has got all the room in the world. A Sound Barrier late by Bumblebee to save Astronex. Gives a little bit of time to Sugarero to find picks, but damage was realistically done. With Pummy down them, maybe they've got a chance. Pummy's Infected still up, though. A tank is still alive here for Trick Room. He's going to cause a lot of problems. Sugarero's got to chunk his way through that health bar, but he just can't find the head of Infected.
Oh, Infected stabilizer.
There he goes.
Wild there, and Boat is allowing them to get back into the fight. They're going to jump in on top of it, and Boat is once again healing. In the meantime, though, it looks like this is going to be a fight win for Hive. So, obviously, a radically different start.
Woo!
But here we go. Finally moving our way out from the neutral position of the map. And Trick Room have now swapped Pummy over onto the Cassidy, which is, I think, far better for the situation that they were in. And I'm looking forward to seeing what it's going to be, in the situation that they're in now. Because obviously, this is a much different section of the map that they're working through.
Been knocked off the high ground as well. Turn the robot around, but fighting into this high ground is pretty tough for the Reinhardt. Maybe they could try and flip the map if the robot will keep moving, but Hive are smarter than that. They do manage to contest it. Oh, they let the robot go a little bit. This gives a decent position. The solo shadow onto Astronex as well makes the position very difficult. Even with the healing they've got, it's tough to keep him alive. You know what, Infected, you are so lucky. You are so lucky your team's good at this video game.
Yeah.
For a moment, it was 4 versus 6. Infected swings on a few members, but he overextends. It allows Hanbei to go down to Chime. Robot's barely got the damage on Astronex. Oh, falls to the charge. Blizzard out. They look to strike, but man, Sugarero has been untouchable on this high ground.
Oh man, this has been theft from Hive. They stole 40 meters in a fight that Trick Room won, and now they keep stealing the spot back in fights that Trick Room has pressure advantage, and now Hive have worked themselves back into some support ults, and once again, we're going to just get... I mean, it feels like this is just neutral until absolute 5-stack ult bloodbath. Rinse, repeat.
So what I'm hearing is now we wait.
It's been 2 fights.
Oh, okay, we don't wait that long. We've got a speed Deadeye. Our pulse bombs out. Kitsune rushes in, and here's those ultimates you were talking about. A nice... I don't think that actually hit for the Suzu, actually. I take it back. Set his primary rage to keep him alive and make space for Shugureru, who's done it again. Comes in and sweeps the team from behind. I feel like Trick Room, in wanting to hold their space, are giving a little bit too much to this Sojourn, man.
Yeah, I mean, Shugureru is absolutely coming up big for Hive right now. And we talked about this at the beginning of the map as well. Is just, you know, when you have so much time, it's just a matter of time before the Sojourn just winds up getting some of those picks, and that's kind of what's happening. Once these fights break down and there's a little bit more clearance, it works out for Hive. And I think Trick Room now pushing this bot back into position. They have to maneuver their way carefully here because Hive want to jump in on top of them, and I think Infected is just looking for a one-man shatter onto Astronex. So I think Astronex is really the only person that needs to maybe be concerned. Everybody else is on the high ground.
And there's the bubble pop. They haven't flipped the map yet. They haven't got the robot. They need that if they want to abandon this position. They do get it. It costs a lot of shield for Infected, though. And Shugureru's still on the high ground. They still haven't dealt with the Sojourn. It's still going to be a problem. When it comes in from behind later, they're just hoping they can get that shatter off. It's blocked, but not early enough by Astronex, who's inside of said bubble. When the shatter goes off, Pummy connects a couple headshots, and Trick Room are finally cruising.
Finally able to move that bot forward. And remember, this is the position that they fought in when the map dropped. So now they're back. Unfortunately for them, they're at a pretty big deficit, but not one that they can't retake from. And you can see Hive once again on this Winston composition looking to get back in and on top of them, but no ultimates on offer means that Trick Room, I think, are in a good position, especially with this high ground control, to push this cart and equalize the scoreline, maybe even capture A.
Close. Hive have to dive into them, something that they've been uncomfortable doing pretty much the entire time, with Pummy raining out damage by the handful. It's only a matter of time until somebody goes down. Hive cannot contest this cart repeatedly enough in order to stop that cap from coming in. They have to admit defeat. They'll wait for Lucio to come back and re-engage.
Just like that, Trick Room can keep progressing this thing forward and extending their lead. The onus is now on Hive. They have to find someone in the backline, and they do.
Trade for Hanbei. I'll take that one every day, to be honest. Like, Shugureru's got the high ground, which is a threat. Shugureru drops, in fact. I think this is just a solid little reset from Hive. They're trying to dive in, maybe take one with them, because picking somebody off here would matter, but I don't think they're going to get it.
Yeah, not at all. Magic 8-Ball somehow stays alive there as well. So Trick Room certainly going to be able to stabilize. A little bit ult charge given over to Hanbei as well, who did match Abyss with the rush, the Kitsune rush there. And Trick Room, I think, once again find themselves in a pretty decent position. They have some sustain to play against the Hive front-loaded dive, and as long as they can just last a while and just buy some time, I mean, they can keep bringing this fight back into neutral. They have a 40-meter advantage.
You can allow Hive to use their ultimates and just lose a fight if you really wanted to. They have the forward spawns as well to win the ones after that. Tough call. Oh, the overclock's immediately stuck by Boat. Precision incarnate with the pulse bomb in his hand. This man can't be stopped. Picks up a second before going down, but the advantage has been garnered. Trick Room storm forward.
Just like that as well, Trick Room, I think, probably put themselves in a position where they're very unlikely to win the next fight without a pick or without a massive shatter coming in from Infected that maybe catches someone like Bumblebee in the process. I think without that, Hive should be able to turn this one around, but I mean, you look at how far they now have to go.
Those are some tough staggers.
Exactly. I mean, the timing is not good for them. The positioning is not great for them, especially with the bot now. They have to go 120 meters to get it back to neutral, and then another 50, then cap, wait for that stall time, and extend forward 70 more.
Oh, Astronex is swapped specifically to block the shatter, and he's done his job! Sound barriers out from Bumblebee, and now everyone's running away from a Bastion. Shugureru is the man that the cheese touch. All they have to do is just avoid his sightlines, but they can't for long enough. Shugureru eventually catches up to his victims.
And the big thing here, too, is that Astronex comes away from this fight with 70% ult charge. After blocking the ult from Infected, you could see the swaps now as well. Trick Room just matching, but they have the Bastion here. Hive, obviously, with a lot of aggression, can really, I think they're going to have control of tempo in this one because of the Kitsune rush, but after that fight, Trick Room are in a great spot with the sustain that they have to mirror out.
And it runs the risk of ending before a Kitsune rush can come out, but there it is. Trick Room on the back foot, like you said. Stayed alive. Their health bars are still pretty low. Yeah, that was bound to happen eventually. Infected can only live in that immortality field for so long. Wait. Sugar Air's been traded out. Chime's fragging. Chime's clicking heads. Oh my god, he's got a third! Add another skull to the belt. No. Overtime Wick burns, but the robot proceeds. At the hand of Chime, no less.
Here's that downtime as well. So they capture this objective, but there's a significant portion of time allotted now to Trick Room to get back into position because that bot captures, stalls, and then pushes again.
That's almost better for Hive.
Yeah, I mean, Hive get a decent spot to play in where they actually can utilize... Oh, they can utilize this area here to...
Oh, what a blizzard. Oh, what a blizzard. Chime! Man just doesn't stop. You know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen. Look at him go. May cannot be beaten. They've got 3 more ultimates to boot. Dare I say it, it looks doable here.
Doable, but Trick Room, I mean, they could even go in, they could just lose another fight, then get back and have 5 ultimates versus, like, what, 1, 2? So, depending on this timing, this could, I mean, we talked about this being an incredible mountain that they have to climb, and they have not yet reached the peak.
Artillery out. Oh
my god!
I mean, that is practically inexcusable.
They have to die quick.
That is
have to reset.
100% inexcusable. They had every way to live there. Hold the shield up, step in the immortality field, move out of it for God's sake. But they could not get out. One more fight now. 5 ultimates versus 2. Astronex Shatter could win the whole thing. A well-timed sound barrier from Wicca could get them through. But Trick Room come at them with everything they've got. The Shatter flattens them all. Infected got the better one off. It is Trick Room picking up a 3rd map and ending this series. And a map that, let's be real, has been rightfully theirs 2 times now.
At least it started to look at like it was after 2 fights. But yeah, I think they would have been a little bit upset given how that first map went if they didn't come away with it. They do indeed at the end of the day, and ended just the way that we kind of discussing as well, just the fact that there's just so much distance that you have to cover. It just becomes a building process for the team on defense, and finally they reached a point where they hit critical mass, and it was 5 ultimates to who cares how many the opponent has. You're just now going to throw everything out at them and get every kill that you need to end the map.
And it was well earned by Trick Room. They knew what they were coming into. They played their comp well. The Cassidy adaptation from Pummy was dead on in this play here. Good. Chime nearly had some heroics there. But alas, wasn't meant to be. Hive had played well, and it's only down to the lower bracket for them. Trick Room get to maintain their spot up here, though.
Yeah, I mean, I fully expect Hive to be able to do some things, work some people in that lower bracket. Obviously, we talked already about how there's so much competition down there already. I mean, we're talking about some top teams, or at least some expected top teams, that are already down there and lying in wait for teams like Hive to compete against. And now, yes, Hive is going to be diving down there, but we hope to see more of them in the near future. In the meantime, though, Trick Room, I mean, they're moving forward. I mean, who would have thought that going into this tournament, based on past results and everything, that this was going to be one of the teams that could very well find themselves in a grand final? I mean, they're looking like they're keyed in to be able to pull that off.
I mean, honestly, I think Trick Room, if you showed me the composition that everyone was playing, I would have put Trick Room's name down. But they've done it in a really interesting way. I mean, Pummy coming out playing the Bastion. Boat has a Bastion. Boat played the Bastion in Collegiate and like had a lot of great effect with it.
You might have some of the most playtime in competitive, at least in this tournament, on that character.
When I saw the composition, I'm like, what's going on here? It might just be Pummy doesn't have the Mei, but I imagine a player like Pummy would have the Mei. I don't know what the choice were. Either way, you show me this team on like paper and then gave me the composition, I'd probably pick them, right? You've got an incredible Reinhardt player. You've got 2 great supportive DPS players that can really fill roles very specifically as opposed to be hard pop-off aimers. These two do a great job within a system, and when you have those more flowcharty compositions that you can just execute on, their communication is top tier, execution is top tier. I don't think it's a surprise to see a team like Trick Room perform.
Yeah, okay. We're going to be moving on now to a interview. Don't mean to cut you off like that, jeez. But we're going to moving on to an interview. And in just a second here, we want to make sure that we can get through everything before things get too late. We know we got a lot of people watching all over the globe, so we want to make sure that everybody can see everything. So we're going to move to a quick break. When we come back, it's going to be an interview with one of the winners there.